Now, those of you that are console players, when somebody tells you go to PC, what are the first few things that come to mind? Now, I'm sure that somewhere, somehow, you probably have maybe say, some, I don't know, reason, pushback, or hesitation as to why you'd want to game on a gaming PC. But the reality is, a gaming PC is just a much more versatile machine. And what you do is you basically bend that machine to your will to do what it is that you want it to do. It literally is the biggest, power trip that you can get as a gamer, in my opinion, because now no one has to spoon feed you what kinds of games or what the game should look like or play like on your platform. You now take over the control of all of that. That's the ultimate reason as to why most people would play on a gaming PC. However, there is something about it that I think is overwhelming for a lot of people. It's almost akin to building a house. I just looked up this construction spreadsheet on YouTube, and this is the mountain of detail and all the stuff that comes into play when you're trying to build a house. And this is just one person's version of it. There are many other versions out there. But building a PC is not as complex. In fact, it's way easier, and there are different places that you can start from. I think that's the first thing a lot of folk don't really know. There are things that they can actually do to get started. Another thing I wanted to do is to give a caveat before this video goes any deeper. Before you hit the comment section to tell me how not everybody can build a PC, or give some kind of a reason or what you think may be a valid argument against somebody moving to the PC platform, please keep in mind that I've already considered a lot of what people are saying in this regard. And this video might not be for you. It's probably best if you just maybe, watch something else, because again, this video is probably in a sense geared towards those who are interested in exploring, maybe considering, or maybe building a gaming PC as a secondary device, something that they can control, something that they can explore, something that they can game on and bend to their will, because there's just that fun part where you're not relegated to the rules that are given by PlayStation, Xbox, or Nintendo. That's pretty much one of the major reasons that I see out here. So let's go ahead and let's start taking a look at stuff. The very first thing that somebody might do when they decide that they want to go into PC gaming is they'll go ahead and look at, pre-built PCs, and they'll look at prices. I usually say don't do this, because this is not really a good representation of understanding exactly what you're going into. It's almost like, you want to build a house, and the very first thing that you do is, you jump in and you just start looking at all the houses that people built and just start asking them, how much did your house cost? How much did your house cost? How much did your house cost? No, you have to first decide what kind of house you want. You have to first decide what plan of a house you want. You have to first decide how you're going to secure funding. Do you have the cash in the bank? Do you have to go secure a construction loan? Do you have to get special kinds of loans? You have to sell another house first. All of these considerations need to be taken care of before you actually do that. So let's go ahead and let's just basically scrap the pre-built for now. They have their place, don't get me wrong, but we need to understand exactly what this is about first before you can then say, all right, I either want to build custom or I want to make somebody else build it and I don't have to think about it, and I write the check and they can basically hand it to me. Those are the two major considerations that you have to take into account. At the end of the day, they still achieve the same goal, because even with the pre-built, you can open it up and you can make whatever changes and adjustments that you want. You can still, in quote, bend it to your will to do what you want. So first things first, cost. What do you want to spend on your gaming PC? It's the same question you'd ask yourself as to what do you want to spend on a home that you want to build yourself. Do you want to build a home that costs $300,000? Do you want to build one that costs $160,000? And yes, they are there. I know some people are like, what? Yes. Or do you want to build a home that costs $1 million? All of this is going to pretty much be decided on your budget. Now, you're wondering what home costs $160,000. You can build the brandominiums. Those are actually built out of barn-style homes. They call them brandos, or they call them pole barns. And those are actually very affordable to actually, go ahead and construct. I kid you not. You can go to Menards. Menards is and I got to show you guys this stuff because you think I'm crazy, right? And I just want to make sure that I show you. Menards is actually a huge store of some nature, and they sell a lot of home gear stuff. And you can actually build a pole barn kit and order that pole barn kit for a few $1,000s, and you can customize it yourself, and they'll mail you the whole thing to your location if you can ship it. And it's actually a cost-effective way to actually get a house. I kid you not. This stuff is out there, okay? Just making sure that you guys are wondering what I'm talking about. Or you can go build that brick home or that really luxurious home for $300 and $1 million respectively. It's all up to you. Now that you've made that decision, how much you want to spend, let's go ahead and look at what you would need to actually build a computer. I'm going on Newegg's website. You need a few things. You need a motherboard, you need a CPU, you need RAM, you need a power supply, you need your storage, and for the most part, you need your case. They have a combo builder thing. I'm not using it to show you what you should buy. I'm just using it to show you, like, this is how much you should spend. I'm just showing you exactly the parts you need. Now, forget the price. Close your eyes and just listen to the components. The processor is the first thing you need. It's your CPU, and you need a motherboard that is compatible with your processor. So if you're eyeing a processor and you're like, okay, I can afford a processor today, but I cannot afford a processor and a motherboard, I'd say desist. Because if you buy a CPU and you eventually maybe find a sale or a deal on another CPU that has another motherboard that is actually compatible with it, you might be stuck with a CPU that you don't need. So what you do is you buy your CPU and motherboard together. Unless you're upgrading a CPU or unless you're changing your motherboard, then you buy those two components individually. Or unless you're like me, you wanted an extra one because it was cheap, so you thought, and so you buy another one. Don't do it. Don't do what I do, because I also do some PC builds for other people as well from time to time. Then you need your GPU and your RAM. I'll give you guys a formula. If you want to build a PC that will rival your console at the same cost, and I'm going to throw it in here. I was going to do this at the end of later down the road in the video. What you want to do is you want to make sure that your CPU and your GPU are around the $400 mark in total, or maximum the $500 mark in total. Now, you can go a little bit higher, but keep in mind that you're going to start pushing that number closer and closer to $800 and $900 if you do not watch those two items, because your GPU is the number one most expensive item that you will put on your build. So let me give you an example. This is the 3060. Some of you may actually scoff at the 3060, but I can tell you that it is a very capable GPU at 1080. Let's use 1080 for now, because this is how we judge the max power of a CPU. That's to know how good your CPU is. You look at your metrics in 1080p resolution. It gives you the highest frame rates, something that even on console, we're not even going to attempt. Or if you say you want tensor cores that are in the 40 series that can do high, precision computing, you can go with a 4060. Yes, you have lower VRAM, but there are benefits to it. Notice that the $299 price point and the $284 price point will still give me a total of about $500+ if I were to actually select this with the already selected CPU that is here. So I'm just going to go for the 4060 for now, even though all of my bones and my body wants to go for that 3060. But let's just do the 4060 so that we can humor, everybody. So for $300, we're getting this particular 4060. And for $224 minus 30 minus 15, which is on sale now, they will even throw in for this CPU. I think they're going to, well, no, they're not throwing in anything. So you're basically going to get the CPU for $180. So altogether, we're about $480 or so for our CPU and GPU combination. If you look and say, oh, $480, I want to add more. Then again, you got to look again and say, okay, what GPU is going to be a little bit that can give me a little bit here? And I think I can easily just go and say the 6750 XT or something. But they're doing this and limiting the kinds of GPUs that you can pick. So this combo is kind of skewed for Newegg to be able to sell specific gear and make specific amounts of money. And keep in mind, this is AM5. So our RAM is also limited onto what kind of RAM we can actually select. Just ignore the prices, like I said. This is where you get your memory, and then you get your storage, which would be your SSD. It could be NVMe. It could be whatever it is. We're going to go with imagine this. They put WD Black over here. Let's go with the Western Digital 2 terabytes. And just to throw it in there and pick out everything for the case, let's go with these things are $50. Forget the pricing. You get a case. And then let's also go with the power supply. Let's just pick something. 550 watts is going to power all this. Some people might squint and say, no. And I will tell them, shut up. Let's just do the $70 one. And then your CPU cooler, because this CPU does not come with its cooler. They want to sell you an AIO cooler for $90. Yeah, you can buy one for $30. That's an air cooler that would do a good job. But these are all the components you need to build a PC. Now, when you look at the price, you go and say $1,200. Well, ladies and gentlemen, these components are components that were force given to you. And so when you buy a pre-built, you're basically going to be paying for the exact same luxury of having used these components that they want you to use. And I strongly believe that this is where a lot of people kind of, in a sense, give up. They say I can pay $700 for a console, and I'm all well and good. But what if I told you that these components need not be the exact ones that you have here, and we can build a PC of similar power, better in some cases, in terms of maybe rasterization or whatever, and it will cost you way less? Do you want to see it? Okay. First of all, there are different vendors that sell these components. Newegg is just one of them. If you really are on a tight budget, then you go straight to the source, AliExpress. This is another spot that you can go. It is a little weird. It's kind of like eBay, so make sure you pay with PayPal. That's what I'm just going to tell you. But if you don't want to go to AliExpress and you don't want to do the roughening that we all do, you can simply come here and look for a CPU like the Ryzen 5 5600X, which is a $100 CPU, $129 for that CPU. You can buy the 5600. It's not $129. It's a little bit less. It's about $108. And it is going to compete and beat the PlayStation 5 and Series X CPUs, right? So that's one way that you can start. You can start doing this stuff and start understanding. So now 108, right? But remember that CPU that I showed you was 224. You've just cut that whole price by $116. So this $1,200 that you were seeing as the total is now $1,100. And we're going to gut that thing even more as we're building. The next thing is the motherboard. Remember, imagine this motherboard asking you for $279, and you say, why? Why would I give you $275? I know. Look for an AM4 motherboard because that's what's going to be compatible with the 5600. And if you're going with the AM5, if you maybe get yourself a $100 AM5 CPU, which is only available on AliExpress or via the deals that they have, you can get yourself about an $80 AM5 CPU. But for the AM4 motherboard, but for the AM4 motherboards, you can go a little bit low because it's old tech, but it's old tech that's carrying a lot of horsepower that can beat and destroy the PlayStation 5 and the Series X. This ASRock B550 is a $70 unit. You can buy it cheaper on other sites, but we're going to stay on Newegg just because they're not sponsoring this video, by the way. Get the heck out of here, Newegg. They're not sponsoring the video. So that's already $69. So our total, which was 108, let me get my calculator out so I don't lose track of what we're doing. Let's just say 109 because of the change plus $70. We're now at $179 for the motherboard and for the CPU. Then we're going to look at the RAM, which is DDR4 RAM. Let's do 32 gigs of DDR4 RAM, and let's see what that nets us in that regard. DDR4 RAM is so cheap. It's $32.99. So 179 plus $32.99, or let's just say $33. And what that total gives us is 212. Instantly, we've already reduced this number significantly. Now, if we go back to this number, our motherboard has cut out $200 from the build. So this $1,200 that we removed $100 from is now $900 at this point. Keep paying attention as to how we're cutting down the number. And when we do our total, you're going to be very surprised what you see. Let's throw our 299 GPU in there. That's not going to change much. Let's just say 299 for this GPU. If you want more VRAM, get a 6750 XT for gaming. That's going to give you a lot of raw rasterization power. It is also a 299 GPU. Let me just, for the sake of posterity, let me show you here. 6750 XT. And I have a build that I built that has these components, by the way. So like I said, I don't walk the walk, so I can tell you. It's $319 today. Some days they get, really fancy. Let's just throw the $19 in there for the sake of posterity. So $530. The next thing is going to be our stinking memory, which they sold us the Western Digital 2 terabyte, which we're going to basically do. Honestly, this is where I said you can bend this thing to your will. You can do a 1 terabyte for $54. And then if you decide that you want to upgrade, you can do that later on. So I'm going to say $54. I've seen a lot of people go with 2 terabyte on their first run in building this, computers that are going to rival their consoles. And I wonder and say, why do they do that? You're going for performance. So perform before you then start storing a bunch of games, because this PC is not just relegated to NVMe. You can use SSDs and you can build and gain more storage in order, to be able to keep your builds. Now let's go for the case, let's go for the power supply, and let's go for the cooler. Okay, so very, very quickly, let me show you something about the 5600 that, we didn't even talk about. So the 5600 itself, this particular CPU, it comes with a cooler. Do you see it? So you don't need to buy a cooler. So this whole put together that we did here, where you needed a $90 cooler, boom, we just knocked it out by $90. We don't even need to change our total. We're good there. If you want more cooling, that's a custom bend to your will type thing that you got to go do on your own dime, right? So the very next thing that we got to do is get our case. I told you that you can buy a case for $50. That motherboard that we got was a mid ATX, a micro ATX. So when I write PC case and basically just look up something here, I can see cases from about, well, let me see, from, let's just say $50 to $75 apply. And bam, I got me cases for days, right? So you can buy yourself a $50 case that's going to get the job done. The Montech is highly rated. I've seen a lot of reviews for it. You can get, there's another case that was actually here. I think it's a mini ITX. What's the name? There's some that are actually on sale right now. They're actually pretty good if you want. But let's be nice and let's put like, say, $60 on top of our total. Our total right now is sitting at $644. Okay? Next thing on this build that we're going to put together is our power supply. Now, this is the one that gets really controversial. I'm just going to say, according to, a lot of folk, they will say, oh, you need more like a 700 watt power supply. It's okay. There's a $60 one here that's actually done by Thermaltake. It's $54, right? Look at it here, $54. So plus $54.99, let's just say 55, and that is $699. What is the next thing that we need to get in this whole whatchamacallit? Goodness gracious. We're done. We're done. $699, and we are done. I think we got everything that we wanted. Interesting. Now, here's how I was able to build a $650 build, even while using almost the same things. I used a 600 watt power supply. So if you use a 600 watt power supply, which can actually carry this build, I mean, you guys saw the Newegg recommended in the power supply category. They did give us an option for a 650 watt if we wanted, right? And even a 600 watt, I think let's go ahead and delete it. Let's see what power supplies they have in this running. They even suggested a 550. I went 700 just to be nice, but we can do 650. We can do 600 if we wanted to. So you can save money by actually going for a 600 watt power supply, and that will shave off $10 from your total. But I'm being nice, so you can keep that $10. And if you wanted, you can basically shave up some, a little bit more money if you decided that you were going to go with, say, possibly a case that was $50. So already that build of $699 has now come down significantly. And this build is going to trade punches with your PlayStation 5. With your PlayStation 5 Pro, we'd have to wait for FSR 4 to see what it can do against PSSSR. But at the end of the day, demystifying and showing you that this total that you were afraid of, that, for the most part, you were thinking was about to be $1,200, is absolutely not $1,200. It's actually $644. But because the information has not necessarily been, in my opinion, smooth, put in a way that is smooth for somebody to be able to digest, a lot of people just pretty much think, let me go ahead and show this. Okay, this is my display here. A lot of people just think that, oh, this is pretty much how it needs to go. Let me pull the windows here for you guys to see, and we can look at the comparison, right? So we built this one here with their bundle, and it was about $1,200. When we went ahead and actually built very wisely, we cut that cost down to $699. And if we actually went back and removed the $10, $20 from the power supply and the case, we're at $670. So look at the difference, $699 compared to, $1,200. $679 compared to $1,200. Now, this is just a cost analysis that's been breaking everything down bit by bit. I'm certain that if more people knew that this was possible, they would have what I think is a much more friendly reaction to gaming PCs and the thought about building one as a whole. But a lot of folk are not necessarily aware as to what's going on. They're not really, being shown what the reality is. I saw Linus Tech's video and I was very surprised that he made some very interesting decisions. He went to the used market to go buy a used CPU and a used motherboard, and I was like, why is he doing that? Like, we're at $679, and if we wanted that 2 terabyte NVMe, we can go ahead and put it in here and we'll still be under 750, which is what your PlayStation, I mean, you pay $699 for the PlayStation 5 Pro, and you pay an extra $80 for the Blu-ray drive. On PC, we don't need it. So you can use that $80 to actually up your, some aspects of your build even more. And you can get your 2 terabyte NVMe if you want. You can do whatever you want, and you can basically get your costs to where you want it. This is how it is building a gaming PC. You get to do what it is that you want. You get to bend it to your will. You get to go ahead and leverage pricing across different providers. And just like, you plan properly before you build a house, you take the exact same steps and the exact same measures when building a gaming PC. Now, I built you a gaming PC based on the games that I play. That's the second part. You may not play games like Elden Ring and a lot of the third, person games. You may play games that are FPS games. Believe you me, those games actually require much less computing power at 1080 to give you the highest frame rates. I don't know if you knew that. You wouldn't even need to spend this much to be able to achieve that kind. A PC like this is overkill for a lot of those kinds of games. If you want NVIDIA, if you want, AMD, you can go with the 300, maybe a little bit more in that price range. Or if you wanted to go say, let me add a little bit extra money, then you can now move tiers up in your GPU, or you could stay right there. And the benefit is the moment a generation changes, do you know what you go do with that build? You immediately say, well, the generations are upgrading. You know what I'm going to go do? I'm going to upgrade my CPU. And you just go back to Newegg and say, well, I was using a 5600, right? What should I do to upgrade this CPU? AM4, my RAM is still good. My power supply is still good. My motherboard is still good. I guess I'm going to go with a 5950 or 5700X3D. Perhaps that's all in the same family, right? Now, AM4 is not going to be as future-proof, but these CPUs are going to be there. They're going to be a dime a dozen all over the place. So from that $100 CPU, you add a little extra. Maybe this is a little less. Or maybe you go all the way to the 5950 if you want to say, I want just, a crazy computer, a crazy whatever, 5950, right? You could just go with the 5950X. This is a CPU that is 16 core, 32 thread. It's $300 now. It'll probably, $226 for this. For the 5900, you can upgrade within that, platform. If you want to do AM5, it will cost you a little bit more because the CPUs are a little higher, but there's some deals that actually Newegg is leveraging from time to time to try to ship out some of these AM4s that you can leverage that will cost you maybe an extra $50, $60. That's the number that I did because, the CPU will cost a little more. The motherboard will be a little bit more. I mean, the motherboards actually, you can find $80 AM5 motherboards. So you'll probably go into the $810, $820 mark, and then you now have access to everything in AM5, which includes the 7800X3D, the 9800X3D. If you want to go all the way that high, these are the $400 CPUs, but you don't have to do that in one day. Rome was not built in a day. 7800X3D, where are you at? I'm clicking the wrong thing. Whoops, there. Yeah, Rome was not built in a day. So you can go later on and buy the $400 CPU, of which consoles are not even playing on this level. Like a console CPU is, somebody said, this is a console CPU, you serve it to this CPU and this CPU will still be hungry. It will eat it, And so that's the philosophy of building a gaming PC. Because if you build your house, you can build your house in a way where if you decide you want to expand, you can easily make expansions based on your home without any problems. Isn't that crazy that it is possible to do something like that? So let me hear your thoughts in the comment section. I know this was a very long video, but it needed to be made this way. I appreciate you guys' time and audience. If you have any other questions, talk to me in the comment section again. Peace out.